If you're a small team and you're hiring your first salesperson or a couple of salespeople, you need to find bloodthirsty hunters, people that are okay and thrive in an unstructured and a little bit of a chaotic environment because you don't have enough to give them. Just because you have product market fit in one region doesn't mean you have product market fit everywhere else. If somebody says, I want to see the platform now, you show them the platform now. If you tell them in that sitting call, I'm going to send you a case study, don't take 3 days to send them a case study. Have your shit ready and structured, follow up with the case study 2 minutes after the email. They bring in people with some shared ideas and they call it a community. And then 2 weeks later, there's like, hey, we just launched a new product, sign up for this webinar. Then they're just leads. It's not a community. So you got to think about how you want to capitalize on this in the long run and not just short. Be kind, don't be nice. I learned this the hard way many years ago. As a leader, what does that mean? I was a nice leader in the beginning.
Welcome to a new episode of Leaders of Growth. I'm Milan Savov, CEO of SmartClick, and we help B2B SaaS companies solve two of the biggest growth challenges today. The first one is not showing in AI search, and the second one is dealing with traffic drop that directly impacts qualified pipeline. This podcast is about understanding how growth actually works, not just tactics, but the systems which are shared from people who actually lead this on a daily. I will repeat this. This podcast is about understanding how growth actually works, not just tactics, but from systems. And today's guest is someone who brings a very interesting combination of experience. I'm joined by Daniel Nackovski, the founder of SaaSiest, one of the fastest growing SaaS communities across Nordics, Netherlands, and the UK. And he's also from Macedonia. But what makes Daniel perspective unique, which I feel that it's unique, is that before SaaSiest, he spent almost 20 years on the revenue side, leading and scaling revenue teams inside SaaS companies. So Daniel, welcome to Leaders of Growth.
Milan, it's my pleasure, and I'm happy we finally got to do this. So I'm excited to see where it takes you, or takes us, I should say. And I'm also curious, maybe you'll give me some tips and tricks how we over here at SaaSiest can do better with the LLM search and the GPTs and so on. So
of course.
It's a win-win exercise, hopefully.
Yeah, it was really hard to catch up actually and record this, but I'm glad that we actually find the time on both sides.
Me too.
I know you from SaaSiest, but who's Daniel before SaaSiest?
I don't know if my story is that unique. I am, like you said, I'm a Swede, but my parents are from Macedonia. I just like anybody else, I think, or many people, I tried to make it in sports. I was a horrible athlete, but in my mind, I really wanted to be an athlete, but my body didn't agree. So I did all kinds of sports, football, handball, and so on. And
we all try everything.
It was a lot of fun, but at some point you realize that I'm not even close to having what it takes. So I went to school, and there are some kids that very early on, they know what they want to do in life. I had no idea. I'm 43. I probably still don't know really what I want to do in life, but that's just probably how I am as a person and who I am. But I went to study business. I have a master's in something called international business. And the only reason why I picked that one was because I felt like, since I don't know really what I want to do, this feels broad enough. It feels broad enough. Probably will take me places that will be fun and so on. So that's how I started. But if you would describe me like, who are you? First and foremost, a family man. I have two wonderful kids, 4 and 8. I have a wonderful wife, and really they're all the apple of my eye. Nothing is more important than spending time with them, seeing my little kids, turn into big humans now with personalities and so on. That's really who I am, spending time with them and wanting to enjoy and see them develop into something great. And if I can help them a little bit find their path in life, that's amazing. What I do for a living these days is run the SaaSiest community, which is really exciting. I guess we're going to talk a little bit about that. But previously, right after college, I stumbled across this German startup, which happened to be in tech. It's not like I had a passion to work in tech. I could have easily ended up working for bank or insurance or something. It was 100% coincidental, and then I spent 20 years in the tech or SaaS industry, and here we are now. So I believe in
Without any
destiny and coincidences.
when you don't know where to go to business school.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, it's broad enough.
Yeah.
And if you're not technical enough, if you can't be an engineer, business school is pretty good.
Yeah, well, the thing which you mentioned that you love to spend time with your kids and your family, I think that's the biggest drive which we have actually to that there is no limits to do anything when you have the fully support from home.
Yeah.
That's great. So let's get more practical. Imagine that I'm a founder of some SaaS and I want to build a proper revenue team from scratch. So where do you actually start when you have to do that?
Well, I think it depends on how early you are in your journey. Like the way you described it, or at least the way I understood it. If it's a really, really early stage, I think first, before you start hiring salespeople and a sales leader and building that revenue team, you truly need to ask yourself, do I have a product that is sellable? And what does that mean? Like, are people that are not my friends, that are not my past colleagues, that are not buying from me because I'm the founder, are there other people outside of my circle that are willing to buy this product and they're willing to pay the right amount of it? Because often what founders miss is they're so passionate about their product, their service, their business, and their passion is contagious, and there are friends that will buy their product.
Yeah,
There are family members that will buy their product. There are former clients that will buy the product.
Yeah.
And as great as that is, these are sometimes false positives because they buy from you because of your relationship. Where you need to prove is like, have you been able to sell this at some initial scale to people outside of your initial circle?
Yeah.
And start identifying patterns there, like, who's picking this up? Are they willing to pay the right amount and so on? I think that's the key that a lot of people miss because they get too excited. And then they wonder, like, when they hire the first salesperson, it's like, why can't she sell? Why can't he sell? Well, because you sold to all your friends. That's I think the first mistake people do. So figure that out. Is there momentum there outside of the inner circle? I think the second thing is that you have to find a way, because there's no better salesperson than the founder, the CEO, and so on. They know the industry, they know the product, and they also come in with a set of trust that no other hire can have. Like if you come to me and you happen to be the founder of this company, I'm going to take your word for what you say. If you tell me you're developing the product this way and this is happening in 3 months and so on, I'm going to take your word for it. If a salesperson says that, I'm not going to say that salespeople are liars because I've been a salesperson myself for 20 years, but it doesn't carry as much water. So you need to find a way to multiply yourself on the things that are possible to multiply. What is it that makes you and your story so applicable with the salespeople? Like, can we process our way through this so we can, when we hire the initial people, we can give them at least something to work on? And then I think the third thing is, again, it depends on what business you're in. But for most companies, what I've seen, what I've experienced myself, what I've seen for others, if you're hiring your first, if you're a small team and you're hiring your first salesperson or a couple of salespeople, you need to find, in my opinion, bloodthirsty hunters, entrepreneurs, people that are okay and thrive in an unstructured and a little bit of a chaotic environment because you don't have enough to give them. Like you need to find people that are able to figure it out themselves and that are happy to do so. And sometimes people make the mistake, they hire somebody that maybe did something really good at a much bigger company,
Yeah.
But there's a bunch of processes and structures and so on to support them, and they come into this small company, none of that exists, and they're a little bit lost. So I think
It's not
some of these things
comparable.
you got to think about initially before you start hiring and so on, like where you're going and where you really stand right now.
Yeah, yeah. So if I understand you well, you point out three things. The first one is to try to sell outside your inner circle.
Yeah, otherwise you just have a bunch of false positives
Yeah,
probably.
yeah. To people who actually don't know you, so you
Yeah.
get a real feedback for the product.
Yep.
Then the second thing was to actually translate your story to your sales team, because they would not sell the product as you do, but it's not scalable from the very beginning. So you have to find some way to minimally like translate your knowledge to them.
Right.
And the third one is to find a salesperson who is hungry enough, thirsty as you mentioned, who can work in chaos, but also help you to build that systems and processes over time.
Right.
That's really great. And what I'm wondering here is how much that salesperson should know about the product, so it's not overcomplicating in their head when they try to sell. Because what I found is when the people is not more knowledgeable about the product, they have less emotions when they try to explain the process, the system behind, and so on. And that's like going into a loop to defend your product, not just understand the prospect on the other side.
Yep. I mean, that's a great question, and my answer is probably very boring to you. I think it depends. If you're selling something in compliance, security, and so on, you probably need to know the product very, very, very well.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it depends on who your audience and who you sell to. But I think there's also probably for many people a little bit of a misconception. It's not necessarily how well you know the product, how well you demo it. If I click this button, it does this. If I do this, it does that, and so on. What you need to look for is people that either understand or you can teach on the fact what are the jobs to be done at my clients. So if you're selling to lawyers, I'm just making this up now. I've never sold
Yeah.
anything to lawyers. I probably will say a bunch of wrong things here. It's not so much about what your legal software does. It is about, as a salesperson, understanding the lawyer.
Yeah.
What are her problems, regardless of my platform, what my platform does? Like, what are the jobs that she needs to get done every day, every week, every month to bring her success? And her success is probably winning cases and managing as many cases as possible as fast as possible. These are jobs to be done. Like, okay, and that in that you can break it down to probably much smaller chunks. Like files need to be processed, files needs to be sent and reviewed and scanned and so on. Okay, if you understand in this case the lawyer and the jobs to be done in her world, that is much more important to understand than knowing each and every single button of your platform. You'll figure that out, that you can coach. But once you know that, then you can position whatever service and platform you're selling directly link to the way she operates, the way she works, rather than coming in there and be like, let me show you the 25 buttons we have here and what we can do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think from the success I've had in my respective teams, and some teams have been better than others. We've had more success in some companies than others. But one of the keys have been like to truly speak the language of the person you're speaking to, and understanding what makes him or her as individual successful. Like that's what people care about. Like what gets
Yeah. Yeah.
them promoted, what gets them the bonus, what gets them to be the hero of the
Their
organization.
personal goals to be related with the
Exactly, and then
company.
you position your platform into that. So that's what I would say to that.
And can you share some, maybe a mistake which you did when you hire the people, and how others can avoid like bad hires in that process? What are those like signals which will tell us this is a good person for the first hire, this is not a good person?
Oh man, how much time do you have? I've probably made all the mistakes in the book, some of them twice or three times. We've all been young, we've all done mistakes. But just to come back to one mistake that I did, that I think maybe others people can relate to as well. First of all, at one of the companies, I was running sales in the US. We hired great people, but we didn't give them the tools and the means and the equipment and the story to be successful. Like it was premature as hires. It was too strong of candidates. We hadn't yet figured out our success motion in the US. We had success in Europe, but we learned the hard way that the European way, the way we sold the platform, didn't stick at all in Europe. But here we had two new people joining us, Americans, and we taught them the European way of selling.
Yeah.
And we just made them horrible salespeople because we forced them to stick to the way we did it, but that wasn't the right way. So again, it comes back to like we hadn't proven to ourselves what sticks and so on. Luckily, they were kind enough and stuck around, and we had the patience and so on. They helped us figure it out. But you got to figure out like what sticks. So that's a big mistake that I did. I've also done mistakes of being a little bit too broad, too early, like depending on what you're selling. So I've represented platforms that most of my career can be sold to many different types of people, many different type of industries. And Salesforce can do that, HubSpot can do that, and so on. But in the beginning, you can't afford to do that. So you need to find, even though your platform can be used for everyone and everything, what is the niche that's going to get you from 1 to 2, from 2 to 10, and so on, and really narrow on that, for the story, for the product, and so on. And gosh, like I still regret that. So Nico Henshin, if you're listening to this one, like sorry about that exercise in the US. It took me a couple of years to figure it out, but we did eventually. So it's some of these simple and small things to just get right in the beginning.
Yeah. There are pretty much panels in SaaS conferences who actually speak how to extend to the US markets, which are pretty interesting, with a lot of mistakes who companies from Europe are doing when they try to go in the US.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was, and this was, when was this? 2006 or 7 that I moved to the US. And I had the fortune to represent a really, really great European tech company. At that time, it wasn't SaaS. It was still like on-prem or maybe even hybrid solution. And we basically won every deal here in Europe, especially in Germany, which is where the headquarters was of that company, on one single fact. The Germans are very technical buyers. We would go into the room, and I knew that if we go into the room, if anybody from the team goes into the room, we open up the platform, they do half an hour, 1 hour, click through of the system. We're the best in the world. In 9.9 out of 10 cases, they would choose us because of the fantastic demo. And then we thought, like, we'll just do the same thing in the US. And we just didn't understand in the beginning where people would stop us. It's like, hey, Dan, I don't care about the demo. Tell me, is this going to save me money or make me money? I was like, wait, we have some things we want to show you here. It's like, they don't care about that, at least not in that industry there. But our motion was not ready for it. So it took us a while to understand, like, they don't care about our buttons and that we process documents much faster. We need to think about showing them and talking about it's going to save you millions of dollars every year, or it's going to make you millions of dollars every year. And we weren't equipped for that. So you got to figure that out.
So we're speaking about same product, same process and way of selling, but different culture and how people actually try to find out the biggest benefits out of using it, not just that it's beautiful and the great.
Exactly. And I think that sometimes people also miss that. I learned this the hard way. Just because you have product market fit in one region, it doesn't mean you have product market fit everywhere else, because product market fit can sometimes, in our case, it depended on, like in Germany, we would replace a bunch of systems. So when we came in, people already knew the technology. Many of them had something like a legacy platform. So we didn't have to tell the story of why you need it. They already understood it. We just had to show that we were better. In the US, this was a rather new concept. So like this would be the first time for most companies that they buy a system like this. So there was no reference point. So we had to sell it very, very differently. Same thing like in Europe, we had a really, really strong partner network. And you don't necessarily think about that. So the partners, they didn't resell our solutions, they didn't necessarily implement them, but they were there to talk well about us. We would co-sell something with them. They would sell other solutions and services and so on. We underestimated how much of an effect that had on our product market fit. So when we came to the US and didn't have anything of that, it was much more tricky. So also think about that. Don't overestimate your product market fit. Just because you have it in one region doesn't mean necessarily that you have it elsewhere. It doesn't also mean that you can't repeat it. You can, but you have to account for taking the time and money to do that.
Yeah, as you mentioned before, that you have to find a niche. Maybe that niche will be a market, not just the ICP, but together ICP plus market, and then just go there until 1 million, then extend to another.
Yeah.
And we can discuss about revenue a lot, but I want to discuss a bit SaaSiest. Just one more question about this thing. So what separates the teams, the revenue teams that scale faster and the team that actually are stuck for sometimes years?
Yeah. I mean, I can only speak for myself and to a certain extent as an outsider looking closer at some teams than more than others. But I think it's a couple of things. Like, first of all, I'm going to say something that people don't necessarily say out loud. I mean, you have to have a good product. You have to have a good offering. Like if your offering is shit, if your product is subpar, I mean, sure, even the best sales leader and the best sales teams, they will get you only so far, but you'll never win. Like, I mean, people are picky today. You got to have a strong product. So if you're a salesperson listening to this, like, you know, carefully choose who you work for. It's much easier to sell a good product than a shitty product. I think from our perspective, what I've learned, people talk often about automation, processes, this and that. Like, I think most teams today are like, where you all use the same tools. Like everybody is efficient, everybody is automating like everything they can. Like what makes people stand out, where we had success, was if you can form teams with two characteristics. One is adaptability. Like you have the fact to adapt to changing conditions quickly, and that just doesn't just mean the sales team, but entire company. Like if everybody now has their money set for AI budgets, find a way to get into that AI budget, even if your product is not an AI native. Like you got to find a way to communicate the change, to position yourself, and so on. The other thing, it's probably more important than anything, is speed. Like I know that sounds like a crazy thing, but like the best salespeople that I've had the pleasure to coach and work with me are the ones that moved faster than anybody else. They didn't necessarily know the product more, they didn't necessarily pitch better, but they moved faster. The velocity was crazy fast, or is crazy fast. And that means that, you know, if somebody says I want to see the platform now, you show them the platform now. If you tell them in that sitting call, I'm going to send you a case study, I mean, don't take 3 days to send them a case study. Have your shit ready and structured. You know, follow up with the case study 2 minutes after the email. If you tell them I'm going to check in with you on Tuesday, check in with them on Tuesday. So it's these simple things, but people don't do it. Not enough people do it. Like they have all these tasks in the CRM, and they're like, I should do this today, but I'll do it tomorrow because I had some other things. It is about speed and velocity, and being able to manage a lot of accounts at the same time. For many salespeople, it is a volume game and a game of making sure you can keep the momentum. And then I think the third thing that I think it's unique for salespeople that do really well is that they are really good at building relationships with the customer. But I should say, the big difference here is that they understand they have to build relationships with multiple people in that organization. I mean, of course, depending on what you sell, but I've always sold enterprise grade software. It's not enough that your first contact is loving what you show them and thinks this is great. Like the best salespeople, they figure out quickly like the dependencies, the relationships, and build momentum with each one of them. Because we've seen way too many cases where somebody loves your platform, it's going really well, and that person quits or dies or something happens or is no longer in this process. They've been promoted to a different department, and then your project completely dies. The best salespeople, they never end up in that situation, but they cover these grounds fairly early on and understand very early on. And for this to be successful, who needs to like this? Who needs to say yes here? Who needs to approve this? So I think some of these things are you learn as you go. I certainly learned it as I went along here. I didn't know this the first day, but we figured it out eventually.
Yeah, I thought you will mention the thirsty part again, the drive, but these points which you gave are pretty great. So the adaptability, the speed, and the relationship, but with more people in the organization.
Yep,
that's great. That's great. Let's move to SaaSiest now. Okay. So at some point you decide that there is like a missing community, or I don't know what it is, but you decide to build SaaSiest. What was the biggest problems you were trying to solve with that move?
Oh, I wish I could sit here and say and write a book one day and say like we saw a big problem in Europe, and then we realized that we were the best people to solve it, and then we had a product and we executed according to a master plan. That is not the story. That is not the story. The real story is that Thomas and I, Thomas is my co-founder, that we worked together for many years together. And the last company we worked together was called In River, where I was running revenue, and Thomas did a little bit of everything, product, sales, and marketing. He was a number 10 there. So wherever there was a fire, wherever expertise, help was needed, Thomas would jump in. But we worked very closely together. And after 6 years at that business, and the business was sold to an American fund, we somewhere realized that our journeys at this particular company, we've come to an end. And wherever we will go next, it's very unlikely that we will both end up at the same company, but we were very good friends. So we thought like, okay, we need to have something that we can do together to just have fun, to hang out as buddies. The second thing we had in common was that we were both very interested in tech in general, but not necessarily so much about how tech, well, Thomas maybe more than me, how tech works, but more about the tech business, like, you know, how the entire industry is evolving and so on. And we both felt that at that time we were both in our 40s. One of us is still in our 40s. I'm not going to say who. That there was something missing in Europe, like including ourselves. We've always been fed the American model of how to scale, which is great. The Americans are a few years ahead of us always in SaaS, in AI, and so on. We have a lot to learn about how they're doing and how they're operating, and can be inspired by them. But it doesn't always apply one-to-one. If you're starting a company in, I don't know, say Sweden or Netherlands or UK, like the conditions are very different. We don't have access to the same capital and risk appetite. We don't have access to the same talent pool. If you start a business in San Francisco or New York and so on, there's tons of people that have been on amazing journeys 2, 3, 4 times in their lives. Like I'm not saying that you can just copy and paste, but there's an understanding of what it means to hyperscale. We don't always have that in Europe, like maybe a little bit in London, maybe a little bit in Berlin, now a little bit in Stockholm, but it's rare. And then what the Americans have on us here in Europe is that you have 300 million people that speak your language, that follow the same legislation, that pay with the same currency, and so on. Like your domestic market is massive. Like regardless of which European country you come from, your domestic market is nowhere that size. Now we can argue that EU or Europe is a much bigger market than US. It's true, and which is our superpower and opportunity. But in order to be successful there, suddenly you need to manage cultural differences, language differences, legal differences, and so on. So it sets slightly different challenges, which is also our opportunity, because once we figure it out, this is our way to potentially fight off the Americans. But with that in mind, we felt that we can't be the only ones thinking about this, that the American playbook doesn't fit one-to-one. Let's bring European leaders together here from B2B SaaS, which is the space we know. to share ideas with each other, how to scale, how to run this, what works, what doesn't work, and so on.
Yeah.
And honestly, we started as a hobby project. And luckily for us, there was a few CEOs that felt like, and we started as a podcast. We'll just interview people. And there's a few CEOs. I was like, guys, this is really interesting. We need something like this we initially started in the Nordics. We need something like this in the Nordics, and it quickly expanded into a European exercise. And it was a little bit of a snowball effect. We worked hard, but we were also a little bit lucky that people felt like, yes, I want to learn from other Europeans, not just Americans. We love the Americans. I'm married to an American. Yeah. We will continue to be inspired by them, but we also need to create our own voice. And that snowballed into something. And it was much later in this process that we realized, oh, this potentially can be something more than just a hobby project.
Yeah, like a business.
like a business, yeah. But so that's, fast forward here today, it's not my place to say, but I think it's probably, I don't know who's listening exactly to your podcast, the most well-known SaaS community in Europe.
Yeah, that's great. And so this was like not the obvious from day one. What actually problem you solved? So you just started with enthusiasm and just
exactly. And then it came to us as we moved along. So we had some kind of a working thesis for the podcast, but it was evident for us, not because we figured it out. It's because the CEOs and executives and founders, they told it to us, to our face. The CEO said, guys, it's tough building a SaaS company. It's exciting. It's fun, but it's really, really tough.
Yeah.
And we have great advisors. We have a great board. There's a lot of content online. Yeah. But really, the best way to learn is to talk to other people in the trenches.
Yeah.
So they told it to us as like, okay, what you can give me that will give me value more than anyone else is if you give me access to people that are doing the same type of work, that are in the trenches. And then we realized like, okay, that's what we're going to do. We need to build a community where people can meet in structured and unstructured settings. And that's the problem we solved. And still to this day, people hang out in our forums, whether it's online or in the person event, not because Thomas and I are fun and cool guys. I think we're fun and cool guys, but that's not the reason why they hang out there. SaaSiest has become an equivalent. Like if you're building a SaaS or an AI company, if you're a scale up, and if you hang out in our forums, you're very likely to meet one person, 5 people, 10 people, 20 people that are on a similar journey and are willing to help you, at least share experience. So our strength and our moat, it's the people in the community. Anybody can build a community, but our strength is the people in the community and the fact that they're willing to share.
Yeah. And on our last call, I remember you said something very interesting. You said community is built on trust.
Yeah.
So can you explain me what that means in practice? What builds it and what can destroy the trust in communities?
Yeah. And I think this is like an onion. There's multiple layers here. Like if you look at, and Thomas is much, much better than I am at this, for example. But if you look at the Slack channel we have. So if you're in B2B SaaS, you're an operator, you can join the Slack channel. And there's thousands of people there and you can ask a question, but it's also a little bit nerve-wracking. You join this community where, it's online. Yes, there's a picture of you, there's a name of you, we know who you work for, but it's still rather anonymous. Maybe you don't know anybody, people don't know you. So being part of a community is about initially being seen and comfortable. And what Thomas does, and again, I try to do it, but he's always much better and faster than me. Like every new member every day that joins the Slack channel, he writes them a little message. It's not an AI bot or anything. Like it's Thomas writing like, hey, Milan, welcome to the community. It was good seeing you at the event last year. Nice to see you here as well. That first acknowledgement feels like, oh, wow. Like, it's like these guys, they appreciate that I joined this. So it's about feeling that emotion that I'm welcome here. I belong here.
Yeah.
I think the second thing, if we stick to the Slack channel, I think a lot of people, they won't say it out loud, but if they post a question, Hey, I have an issue with my SEO. I'm looking for a new agency, asking all marketers here, who are you using? Any recommendations? If it's crickets, if nobody answers that, that feels very uncomfortable for me as a new visitor, as a new member.
Yeah.
Then as community members, maybe it's up to us, like, give that question a bump, like give it a like. Maybe we can try to trigger the conversation and tag some CMOs that we know recently changed the SEO agency or whatever it is, to get that going. So it's about these things, like build initial trust.
Again, sharing what you are experienced. Is it good? I mean, you can't always recommend someone because maybe you don't have personal experience with it, but you can reach out to people who actually went through that so they can share their experience.
Exactly. And sometimes it's enough to get people to say, like, hey, we're going through the same process, we haven't figured it out yet. But it's about
Yeah.
feeling comfortable and not naked in that situation. And then I think, from our perspective, if we start peeling the layer, how do you build trust? Like, if you make a promise, you got to stick to that promise. We tell everybody that it's a safe community. You're here to learn. We have policies that we're 100% against selling. If anybody tries to sell anything that is unsolicited, you're not going to be welcomed in the community, because this is not what the community is about. So
Yeah.
we try to really hold strict to those guidelines and make sure that you really come here to learn from other people in the trenches. If you then build business relationship coming out of it, great. If you build friendship coming out, it's great. But it's about creating that trust.
Yeah.
And some of it, I think, is also related, you delivering on your promise. We tell them that if you come to SaaSiest, you're going to meet all these great people, and all
Yeah.
these great people are going to give you playbooks and tactics and so on. And it happens
Yeah.
every year, every event, which is also why people come back. And then I think coming back again, the most critical part of a community is, I think, they need to feel like they're part of it, and not an access, or an asset or an access point that you're going to sell to. Too
Yeah.
many people, especially SaaS companies, they bring in people with some shared ideas and they call it a community. And then 2 weeks later, there's like, hey, we just launched a new product, to sign up for this webinar. Then they're just leads. It's not a community. So you got to think about how you want to capitalize on this in the long run, and not just short term.
Yeah. So maybe think about what kind of value you can give to others without any expectation.
Yep. I think it's give, and then give some more before you ask. But it's also, nobody likes to feel
Yeah.
like they are the
You're
product, or that they're sold to. You got to find different ways here.
Yeah. That's really the truth. I know that you also have like mastermind sessions.
Yep.
If besides the event, expert sessions and so on, how that actually works? Did you started this from the very beginning, or it came naturally while you were developing the network, the community?
Yeah. So our journey is, I think, as simple and as straightforward as many, just that we didn't know the path initially. So we started with the podcast, and then when Clubhouse was hot, we were really early on Clubhouse, and we were, believe it or not, even bigger than SaaSter there. Like we had SaaS sessions and debates every Friday, and it was a lot of fun. So that helps us build momentum, because every Friday we would interview 6 people on Clubhouse and have these debates about whatever it was, SaaS related and so on. So that built, an audience and a momentum. And then people told us, like, wow, we need to find a way to continue these conversations. That's how the Slack group came about. And then people felt also like, well, we also need to have a way to interact with each other, maybe a little bit more in detail and in depth and so on. And then we had a few CEOs that gave us this idea. Why don't we meet on a regular basis in a very, very structured format? So our initial mastermind group was created with 6 CEOs that they had all been part of CEO networks before. These are some of the most successful CEOs in Europe. And they essentially gave us the format. I wish here that I could like steal the format and say like, oh, it's my idea. No, we worked together with them, and they said like, okay, in our case, it ended up being 1 hour at a time. All the sessions that we meet once a month are always run by the members of this. So we don't bring in somebody trying to sell us or external experts. We bring real problems. Every member has a responsibility to speak openly about the real problem they have. And then we run that hour in a very Sorry, say that again?
One problem per session, probably. Or
yeah, one problem per session. One problem per session. And it could be like during COVID, it was things like, hey guys, COVID hit us really hard. I must get rid of 20% of my workforce, unfortunately. Like, here's how I'm thinking of doing it. Am I thinking about it wrong or not? Like, it's these types of questions sometimes, really big questions. And then that worked out really well, thanks to them helping us find the format. Because then people felt like, okay, I'm matched with people that are in a similar situation. They have my role. Their company is about the same size and so on, which means that we talk about the same type of problems. And just here getting different angles of how to handle this problem was really helpful. And then we realized that, okay, if it works for these 6 CEOs, and we almost did it a year for them to find the format, the velocity, and so on, it's like, we should open this up for all CEOs. And then I don't want to say overnight, but over the next couple of months, we suddenly had, I don't know, 130 or 140 CEOs join this paid network. And that's when we realized, oh, we should do the same thing for all the other disciplines in a SaaS company. So
you have separately for CMOs, separately for sales.
Exactly. So we have 11 different disciplines, like from the CEO office to, like you said, CROs, CMOs, CPOs, and whatnot, for the 11 different roles. The qualification is, because we're a scale-up community, you have to own the discipline in your business. So that usually means that you're minimum VP level, European headquartered, obviously B2B SaaS only, and minimum 2 million euros in ARR. Then you can join one of these networks.
And you have like a moderator who moderates the groups, or?
Every group is moderated. I think we do probably 250 sessions a year, because now there's lots of groups. And this is really critical for us. So actually, myself or Thomas moderate the groups.
That's pretty challenging.
It takes some time, but it's worth it.
Yeah, great. I think we covered a lot of great things. So I have 2 more questions and we're done. If you have to start SaaSiest again, what would you do differently?
Ooh, that's a great question. That's a great question. I always felt that we move really fast. That is in our nature, Thomas and I. Like, I can say that proudly. Like, even in our previous businesses, one of our super strengths is that it's not always that we get it right, but I think we are experienced enough and we have the courage enough. Some people would call us crazy, that we make decisions way before we have 100% of the data. So some people wait to have 100% of the data ready, and then they make a decision. We probably make a decision when there's 50% of data available. And sometimes we get it right, but most of the time we get it right. So we moved really fast, but looking back at it, we should have dared to think even bigger in the beginning. Yeah, but
bigger vision.
there's a time and place for it, and then now I know it, but then I didn't know it then. So that I probably would have done different. And then also, we are both opportunistic. We see opportunities everywhere. There were certain projects that were really exciting, but that were not the right projects for us, that just consumed time and so on. But because I should speak for myself, I like new shiny objects. So we've certainly derailed a few times here and there, and spend more time and more energy and also more money on things that actually it's not that close to our core business. So eventually we dropped them. But we've lost a few weeks here, a couple of months there. Now I can look back at it. Stupid things.
Yeah, but this is the lesson. I think maybe each founder has.
Yeah, exactly. So and you don't know until you experiment.
Yeah, yeah,
Some things will stick, but I think even us, like, we, I don't know the age of the audience here, but like now we're getting close to our 50s, and even we forget sometimes that,
yeah.
really, like, you got to stick super hard to
To
the
one thing.
jobs to be done by your core ICP. So if there's a
Yeah,
new shiny great thing over there, but does it really give a value to the community,
yeah,
or is it better to spend time where you're spending time?
yeah. Everyone is talking about the focus, but until you feel it on your own skin, it's it's not the same.
Yeah.
And one more thing, because this podcast is called Leaders of Growth. What's the one advice which you want to share to SaaS leaders today?
Oh, that's a good one. Be kind, don't be nice. I learned this the hard way many years ago, and as a leader, what does that mean? Like, I was a nice leader in the beginning. Like, I would, to give you an example, many years ago, I had one rep that felt uncomfortable talking in front of big audiences. And if you're a nice leader, initially you try to, it's like, I can help you, we'll prepare the slides together. And if you feel that he or she can't figure it out, then you go like, F it, I'm just going to go and do this presentation for you then at this big conference, because you're a good salesperson
It's like
otherwise.
a parenting role.
Yeah, that is being nice, but that is not being kind.
Yeah,
Because what you actually do here is, like, you prove to this person that this is a dangerous area, but even worse, you hinder them from development.
yeah,
You hinder them get ready for the future. So being a kind leader is telling them maybe what they don't want to hear right now, but what they want to hear for the future, which in this case is, like, as harsh as it sounds, it's like,
yeah,
if you want to have a career in sales or in this type of business or this organization, you're going to have to do these things. And you have to do this thing. And you should never ever force people into anything, but you should come to the point where they can make a decision. This is for me or this is not for me. So being a kind leader is guiding them and helping them through these painful things, because then they will thank you down the road because you helped them evolve. So be kind, don't be nice.
yeah. This is really great one. I'm facing this currently with some personal development growth which I'm doing. So what I understand is you should be brutally honest with the people, because
Yep,
if you're not telling the truth, you're not loving yourself and you're cutting their way of growing more in the career.
exactly.
Maybe they will don't understand it now and they will like objecting on that, but again you're figuring out that they're not so open-minded if they don't get it right away. Or
Yep.
but yeah, really great point. Do you think there is something which maybe we missed and you want to add?
I'm sure there's lots of stuff, and there's many great people out there that are in the trenches today that can
Yeah,
help you with how to build sales team and so on. I have some experience. We've had some success. If you want to chit chat more about it, like, you can find me at Daniel@SaaSiest.com or on LinkedIn. I'm happy to speak to anyone and anything. And I think it's just like, if I say something philosophical here, is like, I mean, what we do is, most of us, not life critical. Don't take it too serious. SaaS is changing, AI is changing. Do your best, try to adapt, move as fast as you can, but enjoy life. I feel right now, these days, there's too much stress out there. People are too stressed about everything. It's like, I mean, it's going to be okay, even this time also.
yeah, that's correct. Thank you for being here. I think you shared a lot of valuable lessons, and people has a lot of like gems to take out from this. What stayed for me, the top three things which you mentioned about the revenue, is the adaptability, the speed, and the relationships with more people. So if anyone is listening this episode, whether you're building a community or revenue team, I think Daniel shared a lot of great things here. And before you move on the next thing, the next video, just ask yourself, what's one idea from this episode which you're actually going to apply this week, and drop it in a comment just to see what resonates from this episode and make some engagement. And if you're building a SaaS community or want to hear more about SaaS conversations, just like this video, subscribe to this channel, and let's stay in touch. I'm Milan Savov, and until next time, keep leading, keep scaling, and keep growing. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.